So you're thinking about running, but not sure how to take the first step. My name is Brian Patterson, and I'm here to help. Welcome to Brian's ROMpod. Welcome back to Brian's ROMpod. Well, in the second part of our discussion with Lucy Tomlinson, the founder of Welcome to Pilates, if you haven't heard our first chat, then please do have a listen. In the second part, we started talking about how you progress through Pilates and also how dance has embraced the discipline. She also talks about specific exercises that can be incorporated as part of a runner's schedule.
After the war ended, he went to New York and he set up his studio, and it was for lots of dancers were attracted to it, so ballet dancers, which is why lots of people in that industry do Pilates.
Yeah.
I have a lot of friends who were dancers who are now Pilates teachers. So if you think a ballerina, they have their...
Is there ballet Pilates, or do some people sort of like sell it?
There's something called bar, which is... some of the exercises are quite Pilates based, but you use a bar, and it's kind of a mixture. I mean, I'm not an expert, but it's a mixture of ballet and Pilates, that kind of thing.
It's just the way of marketing it and incorporating the two.
And I mean, I think if you have an interest in ballet, you do quite a lot on your, it's quite a lot of footwork actually. You do lots on your toes, a lot of ankle stability as well. But yeah, so he trained a lot of ballet dancers, and they obviously needed to be very fit to do the kind of dance that they do. So the exercises do get quite dynamic. They get very vigorous, and you're doing them in very quick succession. So you can really build on them. But kind of his traditional Pilates concept is still around today, but now a lot of it isn't really suitable for the everyday person that comes into class. So you kind of have to find different ways to adapt to make things more challenging as people progress. And people do find even just doing 1 hour class a week that you do progress quite quickly, which is great because people then start to feel more confident in their body, and they start to think, oh, I wasn't doing this a couple of weeks ago and now I can do that, and now how can we progress it? So it's always very encouraging when someone comes and says, oh, I can do that thing now that I couldn't do, or I notice it and tell them, and they kind of are like, oh yeah, I couldn't do that a month ago.
All right. Okay. So we've kind of got to the bit where, we've talked about, kind of the core principles. We've talked about how, things that we can do kind of on an everyday basis sort of thing. So now when you're, taking it a little bit further, and I think we'll probably come on to the reform a little bit later on, but sort of thing. So what do you feel that someone who's kind of, a little bit more advanced, maybe going to you, what sort of, the benefits do you think they get out of it? So
I think it would still be the same kind of things that you would even if you were starting out. But you'd probably just feel you would be doing more advanced exercises. So you probably would feel it more in your body the next day, potentially, in terms of working the muscle groups. But then saying that, I think you would, even if you're starting out, it's those smaller muscle groups that maybe you haven't worked before. So I'm just thinking of someone came last week and they were a complete beginner, but they really felt it the next day because they hadn't worked those muscles before. So I don't know if there would be a huge difference in terms of, I think generally people tend to get the bug early on, and then that doesn't go away. It keeps coming because you just maintain that same level.
So, and when you take the class, basically you've got all levels in that class, or will there be like a beginner's class and then the people who are kind of a little bit more advanced, you'll have a separate class for them as well?
So we start with an all levels class, which is for beginners. So if you, on our timetable, we have all levels, intermediate, and advanced.
Right.
And we keep the all levels. We don't call it beginners just because we know that sometimes, depending on how you're feeling one week, someone who is an intermediate, they might actually want to come to an all levels class that week for whatever reason. So we keep it all levels, and we always teach the bodies in the room. So I would never say to somebody not to come to a certain class if they want to come and try a class. When you're progressing up the levels, I will say to somebody, I think you're ready to go into the intermediate class, for example. But yeah, we split it into levels because obviously depending on bodies, the all levels class is the one that you'd start with, and then you can progress up if you want to. If you've got injuries, or say if you're pregnant or something else, then you'd stick in the all levels class until either that injury subsided or you had your baby or whatever it might be.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought of a question. So basically, there is one question I do have is that what are the because if you are starting out, what are the kind of common mistakes that people who do start out will do, sort of thing? Because obviously it's going to be something completely new to them. Because in terms of the breathing, trying to get used to their body in a very different way. So what are the kind of common areas that they might get wrong, or they kind of you kind of think, well, no, it's not like that, it's like this sort of thing?
Definitely the breathing. I think, like I said before, people just stop breathing. But in terms of doing it wrong, I wouldn't say anyone ever comes and does something wrong. I think the only thing you could do wrong is to find a session hard and then not go back.
Right.
You can't really do Pilates wrong. There's ways that I'll go around the room and correct people or give them adjustments, but I would never tell somebody they're doing something wrong because their body might adapt to something differently. There's not really a wrong or right. It's not like there's an amazing teacher who said something once about there's no end of term performance for Pilates. You're not doing it to show anyone how you look at the end of it. It's just about coming and working with your body on the day. And that might be different. You might have been practicing Pilates for 10 years and then you come one week and you can't do a roll up, for example, quite a challenging exercise coming off the floor. And I think you can get quite frustrated by that, but you have to listen to your body. And some days you can do things and some days you can't. So I wouldn't say anyone would do things wrong. I would just say if you came and felt a bit overwhelmed or you didn't quite like the teacher or any other reason and didn't go back, I would say that was wrong. Because I would say either find a different teacher or give it another go, kind of give yourself a chance. Like you said, there's a lot to think about. And it can be quite overwhelming when you start and the teacher's telling you to think about where your ribs are, telling you to breathe, telling you to point your toes, and you kind of think, oh, this is a bit much. And it is a lot, which is why you kind of try to start with the basics and then build on gradually from that so people do come back.
All right. Okay, that's good. Because I remember there was a swim teacher. Oh, there was this thing called, I've forgotten the name it's called. Anyway, it's a type of way of teaching swimming. And he just said, just focus on one thing. And, each time you're swimming, just focus on that one thing and get that right. So,
exactly.
Yeah. And then, you can sort of build on from that.
Especially because I think people come, I often see it, there's a lot of energy in the room. People come after work, for example, and they might have had a rubbish day. They might not want to be there. They might be stressed. Children might not have done their homework, all those kind of things.
Tired,
exactly. Anything could have happened. And sometimes people just want to come and move and be left alone. And you can see it when people come into the room, how they might be feeling. And you don't want to then add on to that by saying you're doing that exercise wrong. You never want to make somebody feel like they're failing at it. And you can't really fail at Pilates. If you're there on the mat, you've showed up, then that's already a win that they've even come. So I only want to be encouraging people to just do their best on the day. And sometimes people come and, like I said, they can't do an exercise that they can normally do, and they do get frustrated. And I have to remind them that you're just working with your body, and some days is great and some days it doesn't feel as good.
Okay. Now, I know this isn't a visual podcast, so we can't demonstrate, but I know I'm sort of jumping about. So that's all right. Yeah, we can jump about. So basically, so you talked about that kind of getting your spine and whatever. But if I wanted something that's, say, just to improve my core strength, and whatever, as a beginner, because I know for runners that's kind of quite a key thing.
Yeah, definitely.
As well as the stretching, as you said. But what's good? What would be good to start off with?
Ooh, okay. So there's obviously lots of exercises. The thing is with Pilates is almost all of them will be using your core. So you use your core even just to stand up. Use your core to sit, just to be sitting up. So, but for those kind of ones, if people want to feel that like burn, there's a few exercises in particular that spring to mind. So there's the exercise called the 100, which if anyone listening has done Pilates, they probably have done the 100 at some point. You're essentially in a curl up, which is like a low sit up. So your shoulders are lifted off the mat. Yeah. Your legs are either lifted and bent, or they can be extended out if you want to make it more challenging. Right. And you want to really feel that deep abdominal work coming in. So we talk a lot about the pelvic floor in Pilates, and it's that zipping up sensation in those deeper abdominal muscles. So you're feeling that your body is held in space, and then you're simply, and I say simply because it's not simple, but you're simply beating the arms vigorously, 100 counts basically. So you breathe in through your nose for the count of 5, you breathe out through your mouth for the count of 5, and you do that 100 times with your legs in that same position, in your upper back being curled off the floor. So you're kind of like in a V shape, is that right? So if you think your ribs will still be on the floor, your pelvis will still be on the floor. So it's just the upper back, but your legs are kind of in their part of the V. Yeah. But then it's just your head and shoulders lifted off. Yeah. The thing that does tend to go wrong, if we're going to use that word in exercise, is that people feel it in their neck. So their head starts to drop back with gravity. So it's trying to engage enough to keep your shoulders lifted off the floor. Right. And you're getting actually that flex position of your shoulders. They're rounding forwards, and you're really reaching out long through your arms and your fingertips. And that powerhouse that I mentioned earlier is that really feeling the whole body working together in this quite challenging exercise. Yeah. So there's that one, and there's another one, or there's you can do what's called a series of 5. So there's 5 exercises which all start in that similar position with your shoulders lifted. Yeah. The 100 is quite a static movement. The only thing you're moving is your arms, whereas the single leg stretch, double leg stretch, crisscross, and there's 2 others. Those ones are more flowing. So you're moving your arms and legs at the same time, and it's a lot of coordination as well. So that's where the real mind to muscle element comes in. So you're really thinking about which parts of your body are moving, which parts are staying stable. Okay. And that's what's going to really, you're going to get that feeling in your abdominals and your core. Yeah. So we could always include links in the show notes. Yeah. To some. Yeah. And so you can either look on YouTube, because I've heard of the 100s before. Yeah. And you know, to look afterwards. At you might need an ambulance outside. So I'll look after you. But yes, it was so okay, we'll look at those, and those are good ones, let's say, just to start off with. Yeah, definitely. I mean, even the curl up with your feet on the floor, you're still going to be engaging into your core. So the feet are on the floor, but you're curling up, upper back curling up. Doing Okay. You can do that. You can do the 100 with the feet down as well. That's kind of what you'd start with, and then you can build up. That's a good example of how you can build up the exercises to make them more challenging. Great. And then in terms of I have hip problems. Yeah. And also, I remember I did see. I'm sure other people who are listening will have other issues, but gluteus medius sort of issues, and they got me to do a few things. Is there anything physio? Yeah, I do go to physio stuff like that. So is there anything specifically for the hips that lots of stuff for the hips as well. We do really nice exercises lying on our side. I say nice. I think anyone listening who's done these probably wouldn't say they're nice, but they're really good hip strengthener exercises. So if you imagine you're lying on your side, your bottom leg is bent in a 90-degree position and you're extending your top leg out straight.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of like a kind of recovery position type of thing.
Yeah, kind of. But again,
have you got your hand by your head?
Your hand underneath your head, or you can have the arm extended out underneath your ear.
Yeah.
Again, if I was with you, I'd be getting you in a really good alignment position. This is one of the ones where it's quite crucial where your hips are in space, because if they're even a fraction too far back behind you, you're going to feel it completely differently. So this is one of the ones where I'll teach it and I'll go around and I'll move somebody's hip forwards a little bit and they'll go, oh, and they suddenly start to feel it in their glutes much more.
Oh, right.
Or the side of the leg. So there's lots of variations of that exercise you can do. Have you heard of oysters or clams?
No.
That's one. So both of your legs are bent, feet together, and you're effectively opening from your thigh bone so the knee lifts up.
Yeah.
So it's like a clam shell or an oyster shell opening, and then you close the leg down.
Okay.
You can do it with a band wrapped around your thigh as well.
To increase the resistance.
So you get a little bit of resistance. But even that's a good one for the mind to muscle thing. If you can flap your leg around as much as you like and not feel anything. But if you're really engaging and focusing on what you're moving and why you're moving it and keeping your pelvis stable, you're really going to notice the difference in that exercise. I think that's one of the misconceptions. People think Pilates is easy. If you watch someone doing it, you might not think it looks like much. And then you get on the mat and do it yourself. And then you start to actually feel it in your body.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those ones definitely in that side lying position. I've had some runners in my class who it's a love-hate one. They like it because they know it's good for them, but especially if your hips are tight, it can be a bit nasty.
All right. So that's the clam.
The clams, and just any side lying leg work. Again, I can give you some links to these if that's useful.
Great. Yeah. No, it is definitely be useful. And also in terms of, let's say, tight hamstrings, are there anything for that?
Yeah. So we do quite a simple hamstring stretch. So lying down on the floor, again, you can use a band. So having your leg in a 90-degree position, trying to keep your thigh bones still in space and just extending the knee to reach the leg to the ceiling. So you've probably done that before, kind of bending and straightening the leg. Yeah. But the key again is to keep your thigh bone stable. So if your leg is moving in and out from the from the body, then you're going to be using your hip more than getting that lengthening into the back of the leg. So again, it's just that really building awareness of what's actually moving, what you want to be getting out of the exercise rather than just moving the leg and hoping for the best.
Yeah. So to repeat that again, that's
so you're lying down on your back.
Yeah.
You can have one leg, just the foot on the floor, bring your other leg up. We call it a single knee fold.
Yeah.
And your thigh bone, if you think, is perpendicular to the floor.
Yeah.
And your knee is in a right angle. And then you extend from the leg up and then come down. So extending the back of the knee, and you can wrap a band around your foot again to get a little bit of resistance and really think pushing up into the band. And that's one of the ones, even if you're not using a band, but you flex your ankle and pull your toes down towards your face, you're going to feel it much more into the back of the leg as well. And that's one we often do in class. And I'll say, how are everyone's hamstrings feeling? And it's always the same answer. Tight. So even if you're not a runner, I think lots of people would have quite tight hamstrings.
Yeah. Because I think with running, you do put your body through quite a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I don't know, kind of shortens.
Exactly.
Because I know when I was kind of trying to do, more swimming and whatever, I had really bad ankle flexibility. And a lot of people said, "Oh, that's because you were running." And it tends to, you tend to not get that flexibility. Whereas you need to have that ankle flexibility if you want to swim, do a proper kick or that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So, again, it's a bit like what I said about the spine, moving it in all directions. You want to move your joints in the directions that they can go in. With the hips, for example, because we sit so much, we have a lot of hip flexion, but for most people, it's quite difficult to get hip extension. And that's another one with that side lying. if you have your leg straight, trying to get your leg to go behind your spine, so behind the body, is often quite challenging just to get that extension at the hip.
Yeah.
Like I said, we can go forwards, but going backwards is quite challenging for most people.
Right. So, and that gave me an idea about, in terms of the structure of your class. So how does it work, let's say, for someone, who starts out? So is it kind of an hour long class?
55 minutes, yeah, right. So almost an hour. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you start? And then sort of is it start, middle and an end?
Yeah, generally. It varies week to week. Like I said, I always try and teach the bodies in the room. Sometimes I'll have an idea of what I want to teach and what I want to do, and people will come in and I'll say, we're going to start standing, and everyone will groan. And so we end up lying down and starting lying down. So I try to match the energy. And sometimes I'll say, no, we are going to start standing. That's what we've planned. But
what do you mean start standing?
So everyone's got their mat, and there's various start positions. So generally we've got standing. So you'd start from a standing position, feet hip distance, finding a neutral spine, and then you start to move from there.
Yeah.
Or you might start the class lying down. So again, you take a moment to find your neutral spine lying on the floor.
Yeah.
You can start from 4-point kneeling. So it kind of varies. I try to mix it up so that we don't do the same class every week. So you come and you build on exercises, and we'll always refer back to certain things. And there's some exercises that I always teach, just because they're really good ones, or I know the class needs it. But yeah, it's quite varied. So we tend to do some kind of warm up, often moving the spine, getting the hips to move, getting the shoulders to move. And then you build on that. So the meatier part of the class is when we do more things like the 100, and we do things, to get the body. And then we either finish the class back up in standing, so everyone's ready to walk out, or if it's been a particularly challenging class, I often like to get them to lie down, and we have more of a relaxation, focus on the breath, a bit of a cool down towards the end.
All right. In this episode of Brian's Run Pod, we've explored the exciting synergy between running and Pilates, shedding light on how this dynamic combination can revolutionise your fitness journey. Running offers incredible benefits of both physical health and mental well-being, but it also presents the risk of injuries due to repetitive impact on joints and muscles. That's where Pilates steps in as a game changer. Lucy Tomlinson, the founder of Welcome Pilates, shared invaluable insights into the transformative power of Pilates for runners. Pilates, a series of low-impact exercises, strengthens muscles, enhances posture, and boosts flexibility. When integrated into your running routine, Pilates offers a multitude of advantages. One of the key takeaways is Pilates' focus on core strength, which plays a pivotal role in maintaining balance and stability during running. This core emphasis can lead to improved running form, increased efficiency, enhanced performance, and reduced injury risk. Moreover, the emphasis on controlled breathing in Pilates can improve your breath control, crucial for endurance and stamina on the track. Lucy also highlighted how Pilates can target essential areas like hip and hamstring strength with specific exercises like sidelining, lying, clamshell, and single knee fold. Proper hip alignment is paramount to prevent injuries, making Pilates an indispensable tool for runners. What's fantastic about Pilates is its adaptability, catering to various proficiency levels. Beginners can start with basics and breathing techniques, while advanced participants can challenge themselves with more complex routines. Lucy introduced us to Bar, a dynamic fusion of ballet and Pilates, offering yet another avenue for strength and flexibility enhancement, particularly beneficial for runners. In a typical Pilates class, you embark on a journey from warm-up routines through muscle-building exercises, including with relaxation and breathwork. The beauty of Pilates lies in its flexibility to match the energy in the room, ensuring a personalised workout experience for everyone. In summary, the combination of running and Pilates is a true game changer for those seeking to elevate their fitness, enhance their performance, and nurture their overall well-being. So whether you're a seasoned runner or just starting out, consider lacing up your running shoes. unrolling your Pilates mat and embarking on a transformative fitness journey that promises strength, flexibility, and an injury-free stride. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to sharing more insights into your running journey in future episodes. Don't forget to listen next week in our final episode of Brian's RunPod Pilates trilogy. That's it for another episode, and looking forward to speaking to you next week with some beginner hints and tips about running. I just want to let you know that you can follow me on X, or what was known as Twitter, at Brian's RunPod. I have just recently set up a Facebook page which is called Brian's RunPod, and I am on Instagram at Brian's RunPod. Also, my website is www.briansrunpod.co.uk, where you can get show notes, or on whatever podcasting app you are listening to the show. Plus, all my episodes have chapter markers if you need to get to different segments of the show. Plus, leave a review, as it will help others find this podcast. Music is Happy Day by Stock Audio, not forgetting artwork by Alice Patterson. Till next week, thanks again for listening.